When you are a child, you're full of imagination. You're full of aspirations. Your world is always colorful. You're always full of hope, full of expectancy. Luke chapter 19, a famous story from verse 1 to 10. This is a story about somebody rich, somebody very short, somebody who's a tax collector. Who is a tax collector? So they're native Jewish people, but that person collects tax for the Roman government. You can consider a tax collector IRS for the enemy. These people, they're considered very poorly by Jewish nationals. They're relied very heavily upon by the Roman government. But the Roman government are very hands-off. So the Roman government basically said, this is just for illustration. This year, you gotta give me 1,000 coins. Whatever you can collect. I don't care how much you collect, but I have to reap 1,000 coins from you. So go ahead, collect taxes. So guess what they do? So they will go out and they will collect 2,000 coins and give 1,000 to the Roman government and keep 1,000. They'll keep the surplus for themselves. Now, what if they collect only 900? Then the Roman government says, look, you're the tax collector. You only collected 900. We need 1,000. So you have to pay out of your own the 100 coins that you owe us. So it's in the tax collector's benefit to collect more tax that's required. They're accompanied by Roman soldiers. So they come with weapon and they stand at the door until you give them the money that they ask for. And they ask for amount way beyond what you should pay. They're the bad guys of the society. They're the criminals.
The Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man, too, is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost.
So of the entire 10 verses, I believe the key word is this word, save. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. In the previous chapter, there was a young rich ruler who came to Jesus and asked him a bunch of questions. And Jesus said, okay, if you want to be saved, then go ahead and sell all your possessions. And that young rich ruler couldn't do it. So he walked away, sadly. So the disciples start murmuring among themselves, then who can be saved? There's a historical background. The Jewish people believe that if God bless you, you'll be rich. Okay, so being rich is a sign, is a symbol of being blessed by God. I'm a good person and therefore I'm rich because look, God is just. Why would God bless somebody who he doesn't like, right? So if I'm rich, I'm blessed by God. So the disciples like, this person is so blessed by God and he cannot sell his position. He walked away without being saved. So naturally their question was, then who can be saved? And then Jesus walked by Jericho. And over here, he uses the example of Zacchaeus as an objective lesson for the disciples, for them to see then who can be saved. So here's a young rich ruler who wouldn't sell his possessions, but here's Zacchaeus, who's a chief tax collector who wants to give away his possessions in the end. Drastic contrast. I like to explore 4 areas of how can he be saved. In order to be saved, you need to climb up a tree. What do I mean? Secondly, I like to explore with you, in order to be saved, you need to get over the crowd. Thirdly, you need to get off the tree, not just climb up. Fourthly, you need to take Jesus home. So let's walk through Zacchaeus' storyline to see how he was saved by climbing up a tree, getting over the crowd, getting off the tree, and taking Jesus home. Shall we? Let's go. Imagine you put out a Facebook post, and a lot of people viewed it, actually. It became instantaneously famous. Your name are broadcasting over the internet, over social media. Millions and millions and millions of people viewed it. And this is what you get back in return. 18 million people give you a thumb down. What do you think? What's going on in your mind? Congratulations, you became popular, but you're public enemy number one. 18 million people hate you. 18 million people really disliked your post and therefore really show that they dislike you. So, Zacchaeus was in such a situation. He is rich. He's a tax collector. Do you know that in Roman times, that tax collectors are not called sinners? So if you read through the Bible, you'll see so many different places. The Bible says sinners and tax collectors. So tax collectors are not sinners. Tax collectors are not good enough to be sinners. Do you get it? Tax collectors are so bad that Jewish people don't even classify them as sinners because they're too bad. Sinners cannot fully describe how bad they are. They're public enemy number one. And notice, Zacchaeus is not just a tax collector. He's a chief tax collector. So he's powerful, he's hated, he's rich, he's lonely. And get this, there were a group of people in Jewish society at the time. They will send people with martial arts, with weapons, to assassinate their traitors. These people are called the zealots. So not only was Zacchaeus famous, lonely, hated, his life is constantly in danger. He doesn't know at what time a zealot slit his throat. That danger always existed for any tax collector, not to mention the chief one. So Zacchaeus is public enemy number one. He's very hated. His life is constantly in danger. Now, what do I mean by climbing up a tree? Climbing up a tree in the Jewish society takes a lot of courage. Do you know why? Because the grown-up man dressed in robes. Dress yourself in a robe and climb a tree. Try that. Try that. You can't climb a tree without actually pull up your robe, expose your legs, expose your feet, and climb the tree. While in a very clumsy manner, because one hand will be on the branches, the other hand will be on your robe, right? And then you have to switch. It wasn't an easy task to climb up a tree. It was actually a very despised action for a grown man to climb up a tree. Also, in the previous chapter, in chapter 18, some fathers would bring their infants to Jesus. The disciples were like, "Go away, don't bother our teacher." And Jesus said, "No, the kingdom belongs to these. Unless you are childlike, you cannot enter the kingdom. The kingdom belongs to the childlike." So over here, Zacchaeus is showing us what being childlike is like. He's a grown-up, but he can do a childlike action just to see Jesus. What do you need to be childlike? Think about the case of Zacchaeus. He needs to be childlike against sarcasm, right? Haha, Zacchaeus! You're so sure you can't even see Jesus from the ground level? You gotta climb up a tree? What are you, like 5-year-old? Be childlike means being mocked, being despised, being disregarded, being overwritten, being laughed at. What's precious about a child? What's so precious about Zacchaeus' action? It's an odd behavior. It's an awkward thing that you wouldn't shoot a video and post it on Facebook. No, I won't do that because it's a laughing stock. When you are a child, you're full of imagination. You're full of aspirations. Your world is always colorful. You're always full of hope, full of expectancy. You're longing for a hero. You're longing for the good conquer evil. And then when you're little, you long for a sense of love without ending. You long for living forever. You're longing for fairy tales. It's a vibrant world. Think about the 5-year-old you. Weren't you full of imaginations? Weren't you full of expectancy, full of hope, full of life? Wasn't your world always colorful? But somehow, when you grow up, people start to tell you that you're but just a bunch of chemicals. You're just a DNA like I am. There's no right or wrong. You have your own truth. You live the way you like. I live the way I like. You can't say that I'm wrong. I can't say that you're wrong. Only a child would believe in Christianity. It's just so primitive. So when you grow up, unless you conform to that society of ridicule against Christian faith, you can't survive. We're living in a world whose values are upside down, who's very antagonistic towards any imagination, any belief of the supernatural. People believe that when you die, you rot, and that's it. And therefore, when you live, you gotta enjoy the best you can. Drink all the bubble tea that you want. Eat all the ice cream that you want. If you're not lean and pretty, nobody will like you. So this is what the world is telling us. But Jesus told us, look at Zacchaeus. He can stand up against ridicule just for a peek at Jesus. Well, why would Zacchaeus be interested in Jesus? I think he was just curious because Jesus was famous. Jesus was a controversial figure. Movie stars, he's like a celebrity, he's like a basketball star that I just like to climb up a sycamore fig tree just to take a look at him. I was just curious. That curiosity was childlikeness. As you start to age, don't lose your curiosity. Don't buy into the world's narrative that if you grow up, you need to be boring. Not at all. Do you know that if you believe in Christianity, you are 180 degrees against culture? This culture said there's nothing supernatural. Yet if you believe in Jesus Christ, you actually believe in virgin birth. You believe that God was actually born, take on infant forms in a manger, needs diapers, needs people to help him with pooping and peeing. And you actually believe that somebody was killed, crucified, and 3 days later rose back to life? And you actually believe that he will come back one day to judge heaven and earth? And he will have the final say of mankind? You actually believe that eventually the good will conquer evil? You actually believe that you'll live forever? The entire Bible is against today's culture. Unless you can climb the tree, unless you are ready to be ridiculed, you can't see Jesus. You won't be able to see him. You'll be crowded out. Martin Luther King, he said the following great words. He said, I refuse to accept the idea that man is mere flotsam and jetsam in the river of life, unable to influence the unfolding events which surround him. So Martin Luther King Jr. believed that there is good and bad in the world, and this world may not be good, and his life has a purpose, and the purpose is for bringing justice and peace into a world where justice and peace are corrupted. Martin Luther King is a man full of curiosity and drivenness. So don't let the world tell you you have to conform to one of them in order to be meaningful, in order to be accepted. You can be ridiculed, yet you find the meaning of life.